Rapture is one of those albums that you cannot tell the story of black music history without. It's that simple. You can't talk about 80s R&B without it. You can't talk about R&B period without it. You damn sure can't talk about The Quiet Storm without it. You can't talk about the great albums from female singers without Rapture. What's going on, everybody? You're right on time for another ride on the Groove Line with your boy Chris Stevens. Well, we made it to Friday. Hopefully you're doing well. And today we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of one of the landmark albums of the 1980s, one of the landmark albums in R&B and Quiet Storm. What else could it be but Anita Baker's Rapture, which was released on this day, March 20th, 1986 on Elektra Records. And it became one of the biggest runaway hits of the second half of the 1980s. And there's a very interesting backstory behind it. Of course, we're going to talk about the songs naturally, but let's get into the backstory first. Of course, Anita Baker's recording career started when she was 20 years old with a group called Chapter 8. And they put out a self-titled album that has her first real solo debut on it, I Just Want to Be Your Girl. And there's a duet on there called Ready for Your Love, which I'm probably going to do an entirely different little clip on, which is a wonderful song. But Chapter 8 ended up going Chapter 7 or Chapter 11 or something like that, however you declare bankruptcy, and ended up splitting up. So Anita actually went to work as a receptionist and working in odd jobs until a small label called Beverly Glenn signed her in 1982 and released the Songstress album in 1983. Of course, the Songstress is best known for Angel, which of course Layla Hathaway does a wonderful cover of. So you guys, quick question. Which one do you prefer? Layla Hathaway's version of Angel or Anita Baker's original? Gotta know what y'all think about this one. I'll keep my opinion to myself and let y'all hash that out, but I digress. And then, of course, there's the best thing yet. But by 1984, Anita started to get suitors. And Elektra, which of course was a part of Warner Brothers Records, really wanted to sign her. And they came to an agreement. Only problem was Anita was still under contract with Beverly Glenn, but she said she would not be recording with Beverly Glenn anymore because she had issues with the way the label was being run, the material she was getting, all of that good stuff. So she's working on her Elektra debut, but Beverly Glenn says, "No, you ain't. We taking y'all jokers to court." So while this case worked through the courts in 84 and 85 and the first part of 86, Anita Baker is working on her second studio album, and everyone's throwing producers at her like, "Yo, you should work with this one. You should work with this one." She's like, "No, I'm going to work with my dude, Michael J. Powell." And that's who she was writing songs with in Chapter 8 back in the late 70s. So Michael Powell produced that album. And it's crazy because March 19th, 1986 is when the courts ruled in Elektra's favor to let Anita Baker record for them. And the very next day, Rapture comes out. And it's interesting because they chose Watch Your Step as the first single. And that was something that Anita wrote herself. She even plays keys on that song, by the way, to show that she's not just a singer, she's a multi-instrumentalist, a very talented musician and songwriter. But that could have killed it on the spot because every song on the album, aside from Watch Your Step, is something that people remember. For crying out loud, the album starts off with Sweet Love. I mean, we all know that piano, dun, dun, drum, dun, 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 with all my heart. You know, I mean, we all know how it goes. Those of us who had to clean up our houses on weekends, we all heard Anita Baker. Well, actually, you know what? No, I'll leave that. I'll save that for another episode. But most black people knew it was time to clean up. Most black kids knew it was time to clean up when Anita Baker was playing in the house. So yes. But yeah, Sweet Love starts the album off. And you know, she's talking about she feels no shame. I'm in love. There's no stronger love in this world. You're my man. I'm your girl. And she's just like, it just sets a standard for a whole new approach to women singers because Anita Baker's voice, only her and Phyllis Hyman I can think of who were women who had kind of like a deeper register who just absolutely blew people away at that point in time. I mean, there have been, you know, female singers with deep voices before, and there have been women with deep voices before that can sing. I mean, let's talk about, you know, the Burke sister on Ooh Child. I mean, I honestly thought that was one of the guys, but it was the lone sister in the group. But yeah, so I mean, Sweet Love starts it off, and then you go into Been So Long, which is another song that Anita wrote solo, by the way. And, you know, everybody can relate to being away from somebody that, you know, you want to be with. And it's just that, been so long, I'm missing you, baby. Been so long. And it just soars. I mean, but the standout to me This is just my personal opinion. This is my favorite song on the album, and it's probably a top 3 Anita Baker song for me of all time. And it is her cover of Mystery. And now people are probably wondering, how is Mystery a cover? Follow the trend. So follow the story. So Rod Temperton, of course, the late great Rod Temperton, one of the greatest songwriters of all time, wrote a song called Mystery for a group called Manhattan Transfer. And this was on their 1983 album. And as of right now, it is the only version of Mystery that is available on stream because Auntie Anita will not put her music on stream. Why? I don't know, but that's her choice because she owns the masters and all that good stuff. So, not taking anything away from the Manhattan Transfer version, which, is okay, but the way that Michael Powell produced this thing, you think about it. There's that, that little twinkling synth, ding, ding, and then the finger snaps, ding, 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 and Anita, does this little part with her voice in the background. Ooh, here comes another synth, kind of like, kind of wow, kind of wah. And then the bass comes in, boom, boom, boom. And it's a song, just talking about, believe in the mystery like it used to be. Bring back all the passion to my heart, all the tender days, all the love we made, and all of that good stuff. And one of the underrated parts of Mystery is Natalie Jackson's little duet at the bridge with Anita. When she talks about, lonely spirits seem to whisper in the wind, and Anita steps in with her part. And then Natalie comes back, since the dawn of time, the mystery never ends. And then Anita takes over from there. So Mystery is my favorite song on for Rapture. What Mystery is to me, it seems like the intro is setting a scene. It can be either sunset or it's, finally gotten dark. People are turning on the lights in their houses, and you kind of get this picture of a couple coming together after a long day of whatever jobs they had, whether it's dinner on the table or curled up on the couch watching a movie, and they take it to the boudoir later that night, and it just sets a beautiful picture of what a loving night with someone you love should be. And it's a Quiet Storm classic, another one of those Quiet Storm bangers that people just don't forget about. And Same Old Love, I mean, it's an Anita Baker mid-tempo, up-tempo, if you want to call it that. It's a little more danceable. I mean, it's probably the most danceable record on the album, except for maybe Watch Your Step. But, it's the same thing, from beginning to end, 365 days of the year. I want your same old love again. All I want to do is share my life with you. I want the same old love. I think that's good because, try again. And I think that's awesome in some respects because some people get bored with their relationships, and that can suck. But when you're locked in with somebody, when you know that this person is going to step up for you when you need them to step up for you, and that you in turn will gladly step up for them, and y'all are on the same page with how y'all feel about each other, how you express how you feel about each other, there's nothing wrong with sameness in that regard. So boring love, if as long as it's good love, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think that's what a Same Old Love represents. I mean, and then there's You Bring Me Joy. And that's probably the one that people always cite the most because rappers started citing, You Bring Me Joy in their verses and all of that stuff. So, You Bring Me Joy. I mean, it's her talking about, your eyes, they say, come to me, can we talk for a while? And she goes on to say he's the baddest thing she's seen in all her life. The opening part when she just says, you bring me joy when I'm down, is there's just nothing about this record that can take away from Five Mics. I mean, if we're doing this on a source hip hop level, is absolutely a Five Mic album, no skips. Granted, again, I think Watch Your Step, if you take it off, it makes it probably the second greatest album of the 80s behind Michael Jackson's Thriller. But if you leave Watch Your Step on there, it's still top 5 at minimum. So, it's not one of my favorite Anita Baker songs. And again, using that as the lead single could have been disastrous. But the way, Sweet Love picked up and then Same Old Love after that, the album just took off into the stratosphere. Rapture was something that really had people rethinking this whole computerized R&B thing. And they were like, wow, people can still sing. You can still have instrumentation that sounds reasonably live and reasonably decent. And that's what Rapture did. I mean, we haven't even talked about the title track yet. That's one of my favorite bass lines ever. And that little acoustic guitar part at the end. And it just gives you a feeling of, being caught up in the rapture. Like when you're in love with somebody, it feels like, something spiritual, something bigger than both of y'all is taking place. And I think that was the perfect title track for the album, even though it's called Caught Up in the Rapture. It's usually considered the title track because of, the album being named Rapture. But I think that was a perfect representation of the album because it was something different. It was something fresh. Not to say that people weren't making Quiet Storm albums in 1985 and 86. That's not true. I mean, Luther Vandross was the best at it. But women singers had sort of gone up tempo in a way that people like Phyllis Hyman, Angela Bofield, even Patti LaBelle even went up tempo. So a lot of folks like Phyllis and Angela got left behind. And here comes this little dynamo from Detroit, Michigan, saying, "Nah, we can still do this Quiet Storm thing, ladies. We ain't got to be out there, with the with the asymmetric hairdos and the jumpsuits. We can still put on our dresses, still look fly, step in front of that microphone and blow." And that's what Anita Baker did with Rapture. And it went on to win Grammys. It was like one of the top 5 albums of the year in many categories and many outlets and organizations, news organizations, and all of that. There is nothing about Rapture that seems out of place in 2026. Nothing. Not even Watch Your Step. But every song on that album, Been So Long, Sweet Love, Rapture, You Bring Me Joy, Mystery, Been So Long. I said Been So Long. I mean, just the entire album. Nothing on that album has aged poorly. It's aged very well. And that made Anita Baker a star. And she had to fight to become a star because again, her old record label said, "Oh no, you're not leaving." And Warner Brothers said, "Oh, we got the money to help her leave. So you can fight this out if you want to, but you're gonna go broke doing it." And that's pretty much what happened with Beverly Glenn. I think Beverly Glenn kind of folded the tent maybe like 2-3 years after the fact. So I mean, it sucks as it does. Money talks. We all know what walks, and deeper pockets always win. That's the state of the world we live in right now, to be quite honest with you. Rapture is one of those albums that you cannot tell the story of Black music history without. It's that simple. You can't talk about 80s R&B without it. You can't talk about R&B period without it. You damn sure can't talk about the Quiet Storm without it. You can't talk about the great albums from female singers without Rapture. So it was a song. Again, it made Anita Baker a star, and it redefined R&B. It kind of sort of gave you that separation between what the kids were listening to and what the adults were listening to. That's where contemporary R&B started to take off. The Quiet Storm gave it a platform, and Rapture just sort of helped everybody say, okay, we can still make this classy style of music, even though we got people dancing on the floor to 808s and DX7s and all of that. So credit to Anita Baker, credit to Michael Powell and everybody who played and sang on that album, because again, can't tell the story of Black music without Rapture. Hard to believe it's 40 years old, and not hard to believe it still is a great album today. So what are your thoughts on Rapture? Let us know what you think. We'd love to have a discussion with you guys in the comments, as we always do. So that's going to do it for this ride on the Groove Line. Greatly appreciate y'all as always. Contact information will be in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe and tap that notification bell so you're notified of all the new videos that drop on this channel. And don't forget to like and comment on the videos because, as I said before, I do talk back in the comments. So thank you guys for riding with us on the Groove Line. And until the next time we ride, y'all enjoy your weekend and may you find the groove, or may the groove find you.